Peace, family. Cyrus here. I wanted to do something special and share my sneaker collection. I've actually compiled the top 20 programs that I've designed over the years. I can't really call it a portfolio. It's not my portfolio. I don't carry business cards. I don't have I don't portfolio, I guess you could call this like a digital glimpse if you don't know all of my background. A lot of people know me really well, but have not, they weren't there for every stage, so they don't know all of the shoes. Um, I compiled these top 20. Let me load up my screen right here real quick. Pound for pound, I am the best sneaker designer in the industry. I don't think it is anybody that could really handle me, in a straight up design, pound for pound battle. For the amount of time, the ability to effortlessly be able to create, see around corners. I never fail, never choke up. I don't have I have a passion for the athletic categories, and I play sports. I love sport, and I design directly for what I do, and I've been doing it for a long time. Highly specialized. A lot of what we were doing back in the day is not being taught anywhere else. Hence, the reason for me introducing Sneaker University to try to reintroduce this lost process. So I want to take some time just to get into some of these programs. For those that are not aware, I've designed over the years thousands of sneakers, from thumbnail concepts to renderings. I'm just talking about thousands of thumbnails. I'm talking about thousands of rendered, completed styles. Of those, I prototype, spec, and built, developed hundreds, maybe, I don't know if it's 500-600 pairs of kicks or more than that. I mean, it might be a thousand prototypes, but I've been designing for a very long time. I'm in high demand. Um, the industry is very political. The sneaker industry is very political, and I believe that there are a lot of designers that are suppressed based off of systemic racism. I do stand on that, and because this footwear industry today, as of June of 2025, is just about $100 billion industry, and it's been expanding. It's been doubling, seems like every decade, without stuff like industry shutdown or all this tariff stuff. The industry is rapidly expanding. And so, the potential to it is there's a competition to control the revenues of this industry. So designers get the crappy end of the stick a lot of times. I'm a designer or entrepreneur. I think that just made it worse. So a lot of this stuff, a lot is released, a lot is suppressed. There's a tremendous amount of suppression in the industry. I'm not gonna get into all of that. But outside of all of that, pound for pound, nobody can deal with me. I'm telling you right now, when you look at it all. So let's get into these programs. This first one, this is a shoe called the Gondola that are designed in 1996. And the Gondola was slated to be the Grand Hills #3. If you know the history of Fila, Fila had a heart attack after the delivery of the Grand Hill 3 that actually was released because it was the wrong shoe. Most people don't know it's the wrong shoe. Fila had a marketing a mechanism called the Street Buzz. It was a magazine basically that would compile all of the feedback from the streets. These focus groups that would, the marketing team would go out into the streets. They would collect pools. They would stop people in the streets. They would, find a target consumer everywhere, and they would show them all of these prototypes and get their feedback and write it all down and deliver it back to the design department in a magazine, basically. And when this shoe went out, is a potential for the Grand Hill 3. One of the options for the Grand Hill 3 came in as a landslide win for the Grand Hill 3. But because of internal politics, that never happened. This shoe got downgraded into something else and stripped of all its technology, and another shoe went in its place. And that Grand Hill 3 tanked in market. I think it was like 2.5 million pairs that went into market, and none of them sold through. It was just the wrong shoe. It was pure politics. This actually has the 2A technology in the outsole, the midsole. The midsole has these poor PVU, TPU, PU housings. It is a dual density midsole, so the density of these were a little bit more rigid, and the density, the durometer of this poor PU, Port EVA, I believe it was lighter. So it was a pretty funky shoe for back in the day. I mean, and he's very comfortable, very advanced tech. It has a lot of other features. I mean, you see, this is actually, I don't know if you can see it on this drawing, but you can see it in the photograph of the prototypes. It had 3M reflective, clear 3M reflective mudguard. Ill system was thought out. Took a lot of development to work out all of the systems in this, including the lacing, the pull tab, the tongue construction, the midsole, outsole, stabilizer, etc. So this joint was fire. Moving on to the Disruptor. So while I was at Fila, I mean, I worked on the Grand Hill 1, I worked on the Grand Hill 2. Both of them were inspired initially by products that I put together, and then I helped put the rest of the details and the colors into it. This is the Disruptor. This was a shoe I designed from soup to nuts in 2015, and it's sold 1 million pair for the first time it was released. I designed it in 95, it was released in 96. It sold its first 1 million pair by the year 2000. And to date, I believe it's sold somewhere between 20 and 50 million pairs. It's hard to really tell. One thing that's actual fact is it was the sneaker of the year in Footwear News in 2018. And Fila never did $1 billion until 2018, 2019. And the owner, the remaining owner, after John Epstein passed, Gene Yoon, admitted that the growth of Fila was based purely off of the sales of the Disruptor. In a video that he put out talking about Fila around 2020, 2021. But we knew this already. It was said at in many different venues that Fila's growth was powered by the Disruptor. The interesting story, when this was first designed, I actually wanted to change it. I wanted to change it. When I sent it out, the midsole, and I got the first prototype back, I'm like, oh my God, this joint is sitting out of the midsole. The sock liner is, I mean, the footbed of the outsole is too high and needs to be adjusted. But the Street Buzz people came back in, the same group that I mentioned earlier, and they said, don't touch it. The streets like it. And so it remained the same, and went in the history books like that. The hipsters got a hold of it in shortly after my reunion with John Epstein, collaboration with John Epstein in 2015, and hipsters picked it up in 17, 18, around the time that I was rebuilding Giza, rebuilding custom, and then bad boy took off. This, speaking of custom, this is the Custom Renaissance. Custom Collabo is a luxury sneaker brand that I started, and I built a version of this in 2012. This is the earliest prototype version. In its lower picture, it was taller. I gave it a haircut in 2017 when our funding kicked in. We couldn't get past the prototyping stage in 2012. Again, the battle of finance to suppress the true development of the sneaker industry. It is what it is. A lot of intricate stories, but that's what it boils down to. Finally, in 2017, I got some funding and I was able to go to production. I gave it a haircut and it came out like this. This bad boy is a beast. This was designed to be pound for pound, a Jordan killer. One of the top sneakers in history. Looked at all the top views, all the side views, quarter panels, lacing system, top line, tongue construction, you name it, outsole, and put it all together in this package. This was meant to be a athleisure with a little bit heavy on the athletic side, but you can wear that with a tux if you wanted to. Matches, coordinates with everything. We did some light production in 2019, but this shoe has never been available for sale yet. We're still teasing it out while we are waiting for our funding to flow properly, because you can't just throw a shoe like this out there. This is the Triple Double. This was designed for Fubu Platinum in 2003 for the Harlem Globetrotters Fubu Platinum collection. It was a huge, it's a very, very cool shoe. Still one of my favorites to this day. Was championed by Damon John and the guys down at Fubu. Harlem Globetrotters and the fans all love this shoe. I remember Bruce and Norm Weisfield, those were Damon's partners, bosses, partners, said that, Cyrus, get ready. This is, we need to redo another one every year. This will be like the next Jordan. And I knew it, and I was amped about it, but it was sabotaged savagely before it was able to get to the market. That's a whole nother long story, but still, this is one of my favorite shoes of all. One of my favorites of all of the other programs that I built. Big program here. This is the Exhibit A. This is one of the 2 shoes that made it into this top 20 list. Although it's very simple upon first glance, this shoe is very complex in the way that it came about in the making. Sometimes, you know, there's beauty and simplicity, I would say that. So there are 2 shoes. This is one of them. And the proof is not only in the culmination of how this shoe came about, but also the way that it was received. This shoe is loved by many. And it's not strange. It's not a coincidence that it is loved by many. This is this Exhibit A exudes and it speaks to a category. You have to understand. So in mastering the categories of footwear, having mastered, I don't know if I said that, basketball, cross training, I have been being the best in the industry. I had to. I started off in the basketball category as a basketball player, and I mastered it. And then I mastered running. I mastered cross training. I mastered tennis. I mastered boots, including construction and hiking. I mastered cross training. In the same way, and this is how we become the best. I say it without shame, and I accept any challenge. Ain't nobody rocking with me. You got to show me this amount of experience, not just experience, but delivering products that are consistently huge and original in order for you to make that claim or to challenge me. And I believe there's some people out there that are nasty. And you put us together pound for pound, you take the gloves off, no one's coming out alive but Cyrus. You in mastering the categories, you also need to master this thing called merchandising. And the mastery of merchandising is the culmination of how this shoe came about. When I put the custom collection together, then when I launched a lot of the brands like Averex, for one example, there's about 5 different examples. When you're launching a collection for the first time, you got to do a trick with merchandising. When you start with a small set of shoes, but they have to be set up in such a way so that those merchandising categories expand for later. And that's how custom was put together. And this shoe represents one merchandising. It's not a category, but it's a customer. It's a certain customer I was targeting, and this hit the bullseye. And that's why this made the cut. This is the third rail. Third rail is a skateboarding shoe, and skateboarding is one of the categories that I failed to mention just a minute ago. It's actually the number 2 category, and it toggles behind. Over the years, it's toggled between basketball being number 1 and running being number 2, and skateboarding came out of nowhere. And around, at some point in time, I would say the late 90s, early 2000s, skateboarding started to take that spot, that number 2 spot. So it'd either be basketball and cross skate or running and skate. You know what I mean? So skate is a very important program. This is so I have an equal understanding of that category. This is one of my favorite programs in that category. It's a kind of an ill look. Skateboard is it is a strange category. But I love this. It's called the third rail, built for the job. One of many. I've built many skateboarding shoes. This is the Sabertooth. Man, this is one of my favorites. This was designed under my brand Giza Olympius, but was never shown on my Instagram page because I was afraid someone was gonna knock this off. The Giza boot is one of a standout in the Giza collection because we mostly were delivering fitness. I started to pepper some vintage in it as things started to heat up, and we were preparing to really do a full rollout. But we had to put the brakes on it. I also introduced this as a boot because the boot category at the time, 2019, 2020, was choking. It lacked the direction. No one really knew what direction to go. Not Timberland, not Nike, and this was my throwing it out there, swagging it out, saying this is what boots needs to be today. This is a hiking boot that's made with all of the excitement of a snowboarding and a skateboarding boot. A snowboarding and a ski boot, actually. It's got this technology that I developed at Averex in the late 90s. I call 4-wheel drive technology, where this black area is rubber. These rubber very toothy logs sit directly on the surface of the ground. And these red logs that are built off of this PVC stabilizer, rigid stabilizer, basically hard plastic stabilizer, These teeth sit off of the ground about 2.5 millimeters. But when you step into soft surfaces like mud and snow, these teeth kick in. So you get that extra traction, hence the four-wheel drive. This shoe is just fire. It's just fire. I wanted, these colorways are crazy. And I wanted to introduce this in a white, black kind of a colorway, sort of like the Star Wars Stormtrooper color, with the body of it, the puff, what's the word I'm looking for? This puff down upper will be in white, and most of the body in white with some black hits on it. This shoe is just crazy. It's crazy. APU simulator, 20 huge shoes. This shoe has digital technology in it. It was designed by a company out of Miami. It was a very specialized company in Miami, and this actually was a gaming shoe. So this shoe was worn, this sneaker was built to be paired with gaming technology, your handheld, PlayStation, or whatever it was back in the day. It had certain features like storage and unlock keys that were actually added to this, and it would boost your signal, so that your online signal. Huge for 2000. It's about 2013. This shoe here, I can't go into a lot of details because this shoe is still not released. It's about to release, and this has some mechanical technology on it. This is actually what you're looking at is an exoskeleton tech based on this company, and the shoe is built perfectly for that tech. Lowering it and bringing it into the actual real sneaker market. This is the Dream Team designed for Giza. Dream Team was one of the Giza shoes. Also on our Instagram, if you look, this was never shown because I was afraid it would get knocked. And I think we got knocked. This reminds me, this is like a CP30 gold with clear rubber outsole, vintage styling with the American ribbon. Graphic going crazy up the top line like that, up the eye stay top line collar. The eye stay portion of it is leather, and then the collar part is elastic. It's like an elastic gore. Straight flames. Straight flames. This is non-stop. How many shoes is that? This is the Grand Hill 20th anniversary. I named it the Triumph. Short story, John Epstein, the then CEO of Fila, called me in and said, we need another Cyrus shoe. This is a job for you. No one else knows what to do to really get this done right. And he brought me in to build the 20th anniversary. I was truly honored. John was the person who was behind the reboot of the Disruptor. Somehow he did something to trigger the hipsters. I think it was those collabs with the luxury brands. I don't know if they did a collab with Fendi or Gucci or something like that. I think it was Fendi. And the hipsters picked up on a Disruptor and it exploded. Just before that happened, I was sitting in the office with John Epstein, and he asked me, and there was another guy that was there who was the mid-tier design director, and he asked me to build this shoe. I built it real quick, and then a mutiny ensued because I scared the death out of people when I come into the company. It's been my unfortunate downfall. It's been the curse of being too good, and people get terrified, and it gets really interesting. It's almost like the NBA when you get lost up in the trade and you're going from team to team, watching KD at Golden State and seeing Trayvon Green treat KD the way he did. You want to make t-shirts like, bro, is you crazy? Like, you got KD on your team right now. You greater than you. In my case, man, you got some designers in there that were just they were just scared, and they didn't have to be because I'm the ultimate team player. What little did they know? Well, anyway, this shoe got suppressed. Although I just knew this was going to blow the lid off the whole industry. This is one of the reasons why I ended up going inward, insulating, and decided to build my own stuff because I just could no longer trust the inner mechanics of supposedly American corporations that just would all kind of crazy stuff was going on there. I've seen the scenario about 3-4 times, and I don't mean to go on the sidebar, but these are actual facts, and this is stuff that I'll go into details at a different venue. I've seen about at least 7 times, to the point where I've seen this movie 7 times, where the owner of a company will bring me in and say, this is the guy that I need. I worked hard to get his attention, to get him to come and join our company to help us And then the mid-tier people that were below him, the lower managers, would hold a mutiny and overthrow the will of the owner, CEO, a lot of times, the head of the company, because of their fear. They would go in overdrive to protect their selfish positions in the company, not knowing we all gonna eat if you just, get like clear the doorway already. Anyway, I digress. This the Triumph fire shoe. It had a jet fin on the side. You can't see it, but it sticks out about an inch right here on the side. This is a stabilizer, stabilizing the arch, but you can see the kind of jet plane hues on there. Right below this, this was supposed to be a gold-plated a piece, a logo piece that had the laser engraved, I think it said Fila USA. I might have said Triumph on here, but this was this is the first prototype of this shoe. Just below that, and this little sliver of white here is a white fin, like a tail fin of a jet, the ones that stick out horizontal. I know the fin, you got a vertical and you got two horizontal. The ones that stick out horizontal on the sides, just had that on the sides. Fire. You can't really see it in any of these photographs. Maybe right here you can see a little bit covering, actually sat above the this drop-in piece. The Triumph. This joint is fire. One of my favorites, probably one of my all-time favorites. I don't even know if once you get favorite to you end up on this list. I don't know if I have an all-time. All of these are this fire on their own way. There's another very simple shoe. This was the Legacy. I designed this for Rev Run. This is when Run from Run DMC and I became very close friends during this era. I was building a lot of shoes for them. He had a line of shoes called Run Athletics, and we built this together. This is a shoe called the Legacy. A lot of politics involved with this too. Story is not even worth getting into. It's always the same stuff. It's very similar. But this shoe, not only do I like the way it came out, I like the look and feel, I like the construction of it. This actually features an overlasting technology production method that I developed earlier. This is like 2005-06, but I developed the overlasting process in 2005, about 11 years earlier than that. While at Fila, there's another shoe that's coming up. These are tight though. They did a whole lot of marketing with that. This was actually the Arthur Ashe endorsed shoe. You know who that is. Another one, this is the Tomahawk out of Averex, 97, 98. The same four-wheel drive technology that I described in the Sabertooth. This was an early version of that type of just mastery of boots. When I designed this, I had already did the boots for a lot of small companies and a bunch of boots for Fila before I finally went to Averex and put my foot in this. And this joint, this program was really absolutely crazy. It got ran a lot of different places. This and another shoe called the Apache, which I don't have a photograph of the Apache, unfortunately. Full waterproof. Had the drawstring upper, Gore-Tex upper. Draw the string closed. You can step up into step into water all the way up to the edge, and there's no water going in there at all, based on the guts of the construction and whatnot. You know how the boot game was back in the 90s. This is the other very simple shoe. This is for Giza alumni in the campus. Two different versions. I think this one was the alumni. This was the campus. I love this shoe. Just very, very simple and clean. The attention to details, the understanding of what makes the shoe classic. All of that went into this. Again, there's a story about the Thunderbolt I'm gonna get to in the next couple of shoes. I developed the Thunderbolt for Giza in 2017, and I patented it. I have a patent for the Thunderbolt. We got hit with some we came under a financial assault around 2019. I believe it had started earlier than that. It goes back to about 2012, or as early as I decided I wanted to own my own business. I began to be targeted. It was a little bit more stealthy early on. Got real blatant by the time we got to here in 2020. But each time we get stopped, people would basically dismantle the ideas and the concepts that had built into the shoes that I had, including this Thunderbolt. You already know who ran with the Thunderbolt. Shortly after we got stalled, we went into Foot Locker with this same collection, Giza, in 2019, and our funding got shot out a month before, about maybe 3 months before we went in, but the bottom fell out in the month that we were going into Foot Locker. And you remember when the company that used this same Thunderbolt concept, they basically knocked it off, and I was powerless to do anything about it when they came out. You remember? Yeah, right. Late 2019. We had products in the market from 2018 that had this mark on it, but like I said, it was patented in 2017. This is a boot that I did for Averex called the Intruder. This was fire. This never went into the market. I think I only got one prototype of this. They thought I was tripping when I built it. I am well known for my ability to see trends about 5 years into the future, but I learned how to hone it so that I would only be about 2 years ahead. This was way ahead, and it spooked the guy that I built them for that had the license for Averex. Even though I had already gave him, I took that company to $80 million from zero. But this was a little bit advanced for the time, but you can see this with the benefit of knowing where fashion went after that. These joints were so on point. You know, the height, this was an equestrian style boot. So, you know, with the peanut and walnut combined with the stripe. It's got that 3D, that 4-wheel drive technology in the outsole. These joints were sick. I don't know if you can see the detail on the collar with the fire branding and the gold, gold foil, deboss. Sick. This is another shoe I did for Giza. This is a couple of years ago. This was designed for the Giza collection was introduced to the market under the cross-training category, under the designation of fitness, and these were shoes that were built for the gym. So I built this shoe here. I'm at a loss for the name of it. I don't know why I can't remember the name of this program. I usually remember every shoe I've ever made, the name specifically. We had some bodybuilders that I endorsed and a lot of boxers. This was a boxing shoe, and this is a fitness shoe inspired by boxing. And one of the bodybuilders was working out in wrestling and boxing shoes and described this, so I put this together. This is actually made for the gym, but this is built for the streets. These joints are sick. Excuse my French. This is the Mythos, same collection, same time and era. This was a light-duty fitness shoe. I identified it as a multi-million. This is a million pair shoe, as they call it in the industry. When the shoe was really huge, hugely popular, everyone loved it. A lot of people were wearing it. It's a light-duty fitness shoe. It was going to go a million pairs. It had the Thunderbolt on the side. It got stripped. This particular colorway is crazy. A lot of stories behind it. I don't know how else to say it better than that. You know, this shoe was about to go bananas when our funding went out, and I had to literally throw, some baking soda on this joint to keep it from flaming off. But it's gonna come back. This is the Mythos. Going back some years, this is the Crystal Guard. This is a basketball shoe that's made. It's a clear plastic. Well, basically, this shoe is one of the first shoes that has the midsole patch on there that appeared in the Grand Hill #1. This might be contemporary to the Grand Hill 1, but the patch had been on this for a while. I developed it on a boot before even the Crystal Guard. Basketball shoe, clear rubber outsole, clear TPU upper. It had a sock construction on the inside. It was inspired by, I got to give it up, inspired by the Adidas equipment from the late 80s. The equipment might have been the late 80s, or was that the early 90s? Might have been the early 1990 when Adidas equipment came out. This was developed in about 94. Went into market, pretty cool shoe. Actually, this went into market 96. It was designed in 96 and went into market in 97. But it wasn't really run really hard. It was part of the internal politics of this brand. An Italian brand, you got someone like me representing. I think I was just too much of a threat. This shoe should have been pushed a lot differently than it was, but it is what it is. This is a fire shoe regardless. The Crystal Guard. This is the Doc Carter, part of the Rockaware collection. Speaks for itself. Just the cleanness and the distinct lines, the material. This all walnut. Came in peanut. Came in the dark chocolate. Full grain leather. This was a competitor for the Grand Hill 2. So this is actually earlier than the Gondola and earlier than some of the other Grand Hill candidates that I made. This is one of my first Grand Hill candidates. It's technically called a Grand Hill candidate because at the time in Fila, everyone was, the people that were cleared to design in the basketball category all would come up with concepts for Grand Hill. So they were called Grand Hill candidates. Usually about 3 or 4 people designing. And this was one of the candidates for the Grand Hill 2, but lost out. I think it lost a fair battle with the ultimate Grand Hill 2 that actually came out. This actually featured a couple of different things. I worked on the Grand Hill 1 and the Grand Hill 2. Both of them were inspired by, while I was at Fila, I was one of the people that was one of the creative engines that was there, delivering concepts as I do, under a little bit of probably a tremendous amount of suppression. I mean, Fila released a lot of, probably half of the shoes that I had go into market went in through Fila. So they were delivering products. They were just keeping me from the big positions. And that's sophisticated politics. This was my first big company that I went into. But this, this shoe featured the patch that appeared on the Grand Hill 1. This also was one of the first shoes to have, and this actually was the pioneer for the overlasted construction, where leather comes down on the EVA midsole and covers it. It's called overlasting to this date. This was the first shoe to ever play around with that type of a look. The Nike Foamposite came out the year after this, and I think they saw this shoe and they just took it to a whole nother level. They wrapped in the entire midsole of all of the Foamposite, collection are covered. But this, my Grand Hill 2 candidate, actually had its midsole covered. It also had an embroidered midsole patch. Although I give it up, the Penny Hardaway, the Nike Zooms had patches on the midsoles, but they didn't have patches with embroidery. And this was the first one with the patch and embroidery, and the Grand Hill 1 picked up on that. Actually, there was a boot that I did that was the first one that had this embroidery on there. And this was actually echoing the Grand Hill 1, which was a spin-off of the shoe that I built earlier. I'm trying to remember the name of the boot that actually had that patch on it. I think it might have been a Patch Hiker. These are more basketball shoes. All of these went out to market. This is the Stormtrooper. I always loved this from early on. Very simple basketball shoe, but I always thought it was a very dynamic, fire kind of a look. This was the Undeniable. Big Program was on the cover of one of the years of the Fila catalog, and did pretty decent in the market. These were all over the place. The Undeniable, tuxedo-inspired look. This is the Wheel and Deal. I was heavy into doing dramatic looks in the graphics of these shoes and infusing a technical basketball shoe into a shocking look. This one was a spat inspired. I don't know what inspired this. It was just purely graphic. This might be one of, I don't know which one of these is my all-time favorite, but I would say between the Stormtrooper and the Wheel and Deal, both of these were, I love both of these shoes, both of these programs. I like the Loop 1, but the way it turned out compared, sometimes when you build a shoe and you have a concept and it comes to life, something gets lost in there. Something about the Loop 1 did not speak to the original look that I had in mind. I think it was kind of fat. It came out fatter than I wanted it to be. But these were all over the place. This was a popular shoe at the time, and it's not horrible. But a lot of basketball. I mean, there's tons and tons. These are my top 20 programs ever made. I got, there's at least probably 300% more programs, even in basketball, that are not here. I would say this represents 300% more. Let me say, these 20 shoes probably represent, based on the numbers that I floated to you, 5% of the shoes that I actually made overall, or less. This was the candidate for the Grand Hill 4. You got the overlasted midsole. It's got the peekaboo patch to carry the design theme from Fila, but a ton of engineering baked into this bad boy. I don't have better shots of this, unfortunately, but I remember I loved this shoe a whole lot. This was right before I ended up leaving Fila, like 96, 97. And I don't remember the name. I can't remember if I gave it. I always give these shoes a special name. Let me look and see if it's on here. Jogs my memory. There's no name on this particular one. I can't remember the name of this shoe. Anyway, it just goes on and on. A lot of different looks, a lot of experimentation with technology, pushing the limits on constructions in all of those categories, from casuals to just a lot of boots, a lot of basketball, a lot of all of those categories. And I will spend a tremendous amount of time preparing them. I build all of my own tech packs. I do all of my own construction drawings, all of my own draftings from soup to nuts. I don't even like anybody in between me when I'm working. Developers had to stand clear because one error, you can't make no calls on my shoe. One error, you're gonna make the whole thing off. It is bad enough to have to deal with the factories. Sometimes factories. I remember this factory. I think that was out of Pao Chin. This is a shoe for Russell Simmons from Fat Farm. This design, this had a hard name too. What was the name of this joint? It's escaping me now. Was designed, but it was made out of a factory in Pao Chin is where YY is at. But the Pao Chin portion that we were working in, where the quality was generally, when I was at Fat Farm Vita International, the factory that they were working with was a nightmare. And I won't put their business out there further than that. There was something going on with the way that they had their setup that was just backwards. But this shoe, even when I look at this now, this might be a second or third prototype, but it's not built right. You can tell that there's no sophistication in the last. The materials were subpar. This looks like all action leather. This was supposed to be a full grain leather with a certain look and feel, but you can still see the design in there. So my point being, even the factory gets in the way sometimes. I'm that anal about, interpreting a program in a certain way. Just lots and lots of shoes. This is Averex shoes. A lot of these shoes were really big. This is running category, vintage running, the Spitfire, the Flagman. I'm not gonna go into all of these. The Victory. This was a shoe for custom collabo. This was out of that merchandising grouping. This was the one shoe made for women's. My brother, Groovy Luke Jones, the king of fashion, from the Bad Boy Can't, actually was telling me that, this you can't make this just women's only. This is actually the hardest shoe out of the whole collection. It's got to be men's. Shout out to my brother. But this is the Victory. Huge, very special program. Huge. It definitely easily makes this top 20 list. Even though we 26 shoes in, but this thing goes on and on. A lot of different boots. I forgot the name of this bad boy too. Hall of Fame with this boot. A very tall European hiker. It just goes on and on. Got the name. I don't forget the history. The name might escape me for a minute because I'm moving kind of fast, but because I've done a lot of shoes. These are it's like the initial deliveries under Giza Olympias, including the Ninja. This is another delivery package. Colorway's crazy. This is a joint I did for Kanye under the Yeezy brand about a year ago. He wanted to remake the Nike Aqua Sock, make it contemporary. So I made it, did this to the upper, and it took the outsole, and actually from here back, and it's like a fat. If you turn it to the bottom, it had a very wide stance on it, like a straw flip flop, like the old Hawaiian straw flip flop. Sat real wide. Thought it made it real, put an ill twist to the original. Take that in the water though, and it looks. It's a good looking, very well developed design. The Katana, this is part of the same package. All of these shoes actually were a part of one shoe with a single name, but it was a modular program. So this Katana, which was a foam slide, actually worked with some other pieces that you would pull and put over and componentry. So it falls under the same name with Japanese inspiration, obviously, with the name. This goes on and on. In the past, in the present, stuff in the future, always huge, sometimes unreleased. Bro, I did it all. A lot of these, I would say all of these belong on the top 20 list. I couldn't narrow it down any further than these, but I wanted to just go over a little bit just to show some of the breadth of someone who's claiming that he's the best in the industry. I know it for a fact, and it's going to get proven in the future, because you can suppress all you want, but the truth always going to float to the surface at the end of the day. And I appreciate your attention for that amount of time. Cyrus out.